As a bloke in my mid-20s, there are two things you can guarantee that I love. Single-player top-down strategy games like Rimworld and drinking copious amounts of beer. It's a guarantee. So when the Million Beers meme came about, I loved it. Like, it was simple, it was classic, it's memorable, and it just makes sense as a bloke. And I thought to myself, well, how can I do this in Rimworld? Is it even possible to get 1,000,000 of an item in Rimworld? And that's the point of today's challenge, to see whether or not we can actually do it without my PC dying or without me dying of old age. So the rules of this challenge are very, very simple. Use whatever mods I want and to be able to just get 1,000,000 beer or get as much beer as humanly possible before my game becomes unplayable or before the game crashes. Super simple rules. Now to do this, I'm going to be using a few select mods to make my life even easier. Ogre Stack, in order for me to get huge amounts of items per stack so everything can stack up together. Project Rim Factory Revived as the main one in order to be able to automate everything. And the Quarry Adopted mod, an absolute iconic mod in order to get infinite resources. So everything is very simple and it's only got one objective in mind: to get beer, 1,000,000 beer, one way or another, which is apparently 3 different things. So let's get into this challenge and see how I get on. So 1,000,000 beers, it shouldn't be too hard, right? I mean, obviously we've got the time limit of if my game just suddenly dies because I've collected too much beer or whatever. It's not too hard of a challenge because of all the mods that we're running, right? But the one thing that we need to bear in mind is the amount of time it takes to get resources, which is why we're going to use full cheese. I'm talking the most stinky blue cheese, a brilliantly disgusting French camembert, that kind of cheese, in order to get the most out of this. We've spawned in our lovely map. Now, in previous tests for this, I have made a couple of changes to make my life slightly easier. I'm going to start with our characters: Nelson, Bastard, Law, and Evans. Now, Scott Nelson here has 10 in every stat and has some burning passions in a couple of other ones as well. Same as Bastard, same as Law, and same as Evans. I've not changed any of their traits from when they were randomly assigned to me, but I have given them a 10 in every single stat because, in my previous tests, if we didn't give everybody a decent amount of skill and everything, it would basically just mean that everything took way too long, and I don't want that. I want to be able to get on with things, and I want to enjoy my life. So this is the map we've spawned in on. Temperate forest with a couple of hills, and that is about it. But what we're going to be doing is completely blocking off the entire map. We're going to make this one big square, and we're going to abuse the AI. We're going to be using kill boxes, the whole shebang. I'm honestly thinking that initially we block off everything and like leave this area up here as our entrance to the base, potentially. Obviously, that isn't going to be something we're going to do straight away. I think initially we're probably going to live potentially just up here because it's a little bit easier to defend. It's got a nice inside bit. It's not going to be too bad. The strat that we're going to be doing for this is I'm going to go straight into research, and we need to rush multi-analyzers and fabrication. Now, why am I not going straight into automation to try and get some beer really quickly? Because everything that's in automation requires a heavy amount of components, so we need to be able to make them as regularly as possible and as reliably as possible. Because we have unlimited resources with the quarry mod and everything and so on and so forth, the only thing that'll be restricting us is components. So what we need to do first is our basic Rimworld stuff. We need to build base, we need to get food, we need to get supplies, and we need to be able to look after our colonists, because with this scenario we're going to get raided very quickly. So let's get into things and let's build a base. And there is the very first raid, and we've already built a base, so this is like absolutely fine. The Psych Packers, which is a fantastic name by the way. We have 2 raiders. We have Skaldecker and Ditch. Both of them unfortunately have weapons, but both of them are going to be fantastic for us to enslave and use for their free labor. Unfortunately, we don't have any defenses at all. We don't have any weapons at all. So hopefully they don't chop any of our people's limbs off, because that would be awful. The first ones are arriving. I have actually been able to build a few spike traps here, so hopefully we don't lose any limbs here. Perfect, and both of them died to our spike traps that I built very quickly. We got a couple of steel hatches out of that, which makes our lives a little bit easier as well. And some go juice. Nice. Ooh, and there we have it. We have our first beer. Now, obviously, the challenge is to get 1,000,000 beers. It doesn't say how we need to get 1,000,000 beers. We don't need to necessarily ferment all of the beers ourselves. If it involves us murdering Neanderthals to get individual beers at a time, then yeah, we'll murder 1,000,000 Neanderthals. That's just Rimworld, right? So that is our first beer. 999,999 left to go. Great. Perfect. And there we are. Fabrication. Now, if you remember rightly, this is the first milestone of this challenge. Once we get fabrication, that means we have pretty much unlimited components, unlimited ability to do whatever we want. We can completely automate anything. We can automate cooking, cleaning, pissing, shitting. We can automate making beer. We can literally do everything with unlimited resources now. So we're going to ignore research for a minute because we need to actually prepare to start making the beer, right? Because once we start accumulating a lot of beer, our wealth will skyrocket. So throughout all this time, I've been doing preparation. We are currently day 45, and it's taken us so long to get fabrication that I've now completely enclosed the map. There is no way in or out for anything. It's literally like an escape room, but it's in Rimworld, right? What I've also been then setting up is a little like snaky kill box here that's really, really cheesy. It's really, really effective. I absolutely love this style of kill box. Fantastic, right? Highly efficient. What we're then going to do is now fill up all of this area on the inside. We're going to get rid of all the mountains and everything. I'm going to tactically put all of our buildings and everything inside the mountains on the area where we cannot grow. So we then need to expand into automation and mechanoids and go from there. So the next job that we're going to be doing is actually going in and doing a little bit of the ancient exostrider midsection stuff, getting a mechanator on the go. Because once you get a mechanator, we have access to hauler bots. Hauler bots will mean that I can move everything around and everything. And whilst I'm working my way up, it will at least make my life a little bit easier. In terms of how many beers we have, we are looking very nicely at 0 because somebody has stolen some of our beer. Okay, so more time has passed. We're on day 71, another like 20 so days before the last update. Things haven't changed much either. It's a very slow start in order to start getting into the meat of this challenge. We have, however, started on production, we've started working on quarry things, and we have collected a few more colonists. The next big job on my list is to access the ancient danger. Something that's been holding us up for the progression of this challenge is we're not actually able to access fabrication because we have no advanced components, and I'd forgotten to build a comms console all throughout this challenge, so I haven't been able to trade for any. So we're going to do the ancient danger. I don't know what's in it. I don't know if there's anybody living in it. I don't know anything at all. I'm hoping it's not flesh beasts, and if it is, it's not very many. So crack it. Oh, it's empty. Oh, it's empty. Very, very nice. Let's crack open the hermetic crate, and we have a orbital mech cluster targeter, and then 3, 4 ancient crypto sleep caskets. All we need, a couple of people to work the quarry, would be amazing. Okay, well, they're all pretty much hostile, so that's great. Okay, so one of them's gone down. Agatha has gone down here. Agatha isn't the best. But she does have some interesting loot. And then we have this one here that's got a biocoded incinerator, and then 2 of them that are running away. One of them has 3 advanced components, so they will be definitely being stolen. Are either of them any good? This one, both of them are actually pretty good. We're going to ask to unite first, just because it's a little bit better for the social stuff, and then that'll probably be about it, honestly. There we go. So instead I have just captured them and made them our prisoner. I've left Agatha here just to kind of bleed out. They're not somebody I really want, not somebody I'm interested in. Perfect. And there is our very first fabrication bench. So we can now make components. Fantastic. Actually, genuinely perfect. Because I've also been doing other research and stuff, we have actually been able to access the SAL Autonomous Crafting 1, the SAL Assembler Mark 1. It is extremely expensive to produce, and it is very labor intensive, requiring advanced components, normal components, basic AI chips, and robotic arms. But with this, that will mean we can then automatically just craft components, just as many as we want. This is the opening we needed in order to automate as much as humanly possible. Once we can automate components, we can then move on and make as many automatic brewers as humanly possible to fill the entire map. And advanced fabrication has been complete as well, so we are now totally ready for beer brewing. Finally, we can complete the beer brewing research. So once we've got beer brewing, all we then need to get is self-cooking. Then we have access to the fermenting tank, which I can just put down everywhere, and just cook as much beer as I theoretically want. Now obviously we can make things even more efficient by having automated agriculture, improved automated agriculture, advanced sorting systems so we can get everything to go into the right places, the improved SAL autonomous crafting. So we're going to be able to make things very, very efficient, and we're going to scale up hugely. And I've very conveniently found the last advanced component we needed, because we had 3 from the people from the Ancient Danger, so we can now build a SAL Assembler Mark 1. This now means that we can automate the crafting of components and advanced components, which is like so big, it's like Democratic Republic of Congo big. That's how big we're talking right now, because we can now automate the production of components. Don't have to think about that anymore, and we can then move on and just keep going even further. We can automate making robotic arms, we can automate making AI chips. We can then just not have to think about anything, which is so good, as long as it works. Okay, so I've worked it out. Basically, the SAL Assembler Mark 1 can't make components. It has a skill level of 5, and in order to craft components, it is a skill level of 8. Therefore, it cannot do it. Whilst I could, however, change it to make it create basic AI. Nope, I can't make it do that. I can't make it to do literally anything I want it to do. Okay, what we can do what we can do instead is make it make clothes for us, and then we can make money that way. That was a bit of a waste of time. So we need to get this SAL Autonomous Crafting Mark 2, which has got a skill of 12, which therefore means that it can do what we want it to do. A little bit annoying, but at least we know what to do. There we go, so beer brewing is complete. So, we're nearly there. We're nearly there. Literally halfway to 1 million, basically. And we very nicely have had a orbital trader come in. Buddy Import Company. Now, Buddy Import Company is modded, I will add, but Buddy Import Company very nicely sells us loads of the Rim Factory things. We have spacer cookers, assemblers, advanced furnaces, SAL art machines, pulse drill Mark 3s that allow us to just get really cool stuff really, really easily. Yes, they are quite expensive, but honestly, I have quite a lot of just wood that I'm sitting on for some reason, and same with slate blocks, and same with just bits and pieces here and there. I don't think I'm going to buy the Pulse Drill Mark II, but I'm definitely considering buying a spacer cooker, because that'll make my life significantly easier, and I'm definitely just having a good time with all of this stuff here. I mean, Psychic Emanator? Yeah, I'll take one. That'll make my people significantly happier. IED Anti-Grain Warhead? Maybe not. There is some really good stuff here that I'm definitely going to be picking up here to make our lives so much easier. Oh, so we are now on day 100. How much more progress have we made? And as I got into this video and started recording, I knew things were going to be slow. A very slow start and a very quick build up. Kind of like a good evening with your significant other. So, where am I at? Well, I've actually started working on the brewery area here. I've got one brewery thing that has been made, a fermenting tank. With this, we can just make loads of beer. Like, just loads of beer. It all requires 3,000 work in order to access 50, 25 to 10 beer. So the most efficient is to make 50 beer at a time. 3,000 work, with what my tests have done, is roughly 4.5 days. So, with my tests in mind, we need roughly like 50,000 tiles with these fermenting tanks, all producing 50 at a time, which is pretty crazy, as you can imagine. So we've actually started working on things. Despite not having the correct research and everything, we have got some stuff on the go. Having agri-hands that have made our life so much easier, and I can do things on a very small scale. A lot of the stuff that we need to be doing is very, very resource heavy, unfortunately, but there's a big but, we are actually making progress, which feels great. We've made our very first SAL Assembler Mark II. Now, obviously, this is the biggest achievement we've got. Ignore the beer brewing, right? This is automation. This is efficiency. If Elon Musk was here right now, not only would he be spouting something about politics that isn't relevant to himself at all, but he'd be saying, wow, efficiency. He'd be so impressed. Now we can completely automate making components entirely. Like, it's a totally automatic procedure now. Pup can now go off and do other things as well, which is even better as well. Now we need to build a couple more of these. 3 more of these, in fact, would be the perfect amount. They're extremely expensive, however, but it's necessary. It's necessary to proceed now and to go on and so forth. Once we can automate these, then we can then just not have to worry about anything else. So the first fields are going down. I've been deliberating how I'm going to be doing this. So what I've done is I've pre-prepared loads of these drone cultivator Mark IIs. Because we can uninstall them and just put them in whenever, what I've done is I've queued them all up to be built inside our little brewing area. So eventually we'll be able to make them and I can just put them outside wherever and automate things outside here. I've then just queued up an absolutely massive field, which I'm actually going to make even bigger whilst I'm talking here. Now, whilst this does seem a hell of a lot, like it's way too much, I've also been working on expanding our actual mechanoid stuff. I've got a few of these band nodes here so I can get Bastard to have more agrobots. Now, how else am I doing things? Well, we're taking in refugees left, right, and center. Here I have Beard and Glenn, our 2 lovely refugees that are working on growing as well. We're going to start getting there. Once we can get the Cell Assembler Mark 1s here, just to start automating the wort production, that will be perfect. Eventually, I can have like conveyor belts taking everything over here and things like that so we can make things better. But for the time being, this will have to do. And we've got our very first Cell Assembler Mark II working in the brewery, making wort forever. That's its only job. Its just only job is to only make beer. What a life, eh? What a life. So with this Cell Assembler Mark I, all it'll be doing is cracking out wort, putting it in the shelves, and that'll be it. Where we can then put all of this into our 10 fermenting tanks. This will allow us to get about 500 beer every 6 days or so. That's really good. That is thousands of silver, just like that. Fantastic. But obviously it's not enough. This will scale up permanently now. This is it. We are now entering the end game, I want to call it. Raids are going to start ramping up hugely. I've already been preparing for this. I've been getting everybody armored and everything else. But unfortunately, you know, sometimes things go wrong, and unfortunately sometimes people die and we take damage. So things are then delayed a little bit further. But there we have it. Beer, fermentation. The good stuff. Okay, so I've now built the first prototype for automatic beer creation. It's very simple, it's probably not very efficient, and it's probably not very good. It doesn't look the best, I'll be honest. So what happens is we collect the hops and we put them in this freezer here. In this freezer, we use the automatic assembler to turn the hops into wort. The wort is then sent along a conveyor belt into a splitter. This splitter, which is very unappealingly presented, then splits into 2 directions. This then goes along to the fermenting barrels. This then pushes into the stockpile, then it kind of collects, and then it will eventually push its way down so it fills everything up. This isn't the best. It then will ferment the beer, and it will then collect in an item or hopper here, which theoretically should pick it up. Then I don't know what it does. I haven't been able to grow any beer yet, I haven't been able to ferment any yet. It's too early days. Will this work? I genuinely don't know, guys, alright? This is the first start to automatic beer production. At this current moment in time, we're maxing out at about 1,000 every 6 days. I need to work on the designs, I need to tinker with it a bit more. We still are not good for resources. I'm slowly building stockpiles of hops and everything like that, so we're getting there. We're nearly at a point where it's just time. And there he is. We have our first amount of beer. 100 beer. Just chilling, sitting there, having a good time. Every beer is worth 12, so this is a very healthy 1,200 beer in terms of silver cost. Just having a good time. Like, it's that easy, like, to make this beer. It is genuinely that easy, and all we're waiting for is just time in order to make this, and just to make this more efficient. Okay, so I've managed to come up with prototype number 2 of making loads of beer. This takes up a lot less space and it's a little bit more efficient. This time, all it does is split off the conveyor belt into a 1 block area. This then feeds itself into 7 brewery tanks all at the same time, only taking a fairly small amount of space. This reliably uses every single amount of wort that goes into that one space, and then it actually channels it back into the conveyor belt to send it back along to the item pullers and everything that are at the end. Is this more efficient? I think so. Is this a more reliable system? I think it is. I'm going to probably set up a load of these everywhere and hope that these will be the one for us. Okay, so I've now set up 5 of these conveyor belt systems where we're making loads of beer. So that is 35 fermenters. So that then equals 1,750 beer every 4.4 days. That's a lot of beer. That is like a healthy amount of beer. It might not be a million, but it's a very healthy amount. But we can obviously still do more. We still have an extremely healthy stockpile of hops here that can all be turned into wort. And obviously we've got a lot of space, a huge amount of space. So we're doubling the size of the factory again because obviously the factory must grow. Yeah, we have now maxed our wort production. I say maxed in quotations because I could quite easily add like another few wort areas here for storage. But honestly, we're running out of hops because I've just got so much to do and there is so much growing and resources that is required, and we've been really unlucky with traders, unfortunately. And we have now started actually doubling the beer production. So whilst we are kind of doing a lot better than I expected, we need one trader with just like a couple hundred components, and we could just whack down so many drone cultivators, it would be insane. So we've now comfortably hit the 5,000 beer range. Still a crazy amount of beer. Even if we don't get to 1 million beer, which I mean, I'm not going to say we are or not, 5,000 beer is still an incredibly good amount. Now, we're at a stage where it is just waiting, and you're probably wondering, you haven't showed us any raids this video, you haven't showed us you actually in combat. Now, how have I been dealing with raids and everything? With this, a snaky little kill box here, which is absolutely disgustingly cheesy, and I absolutely love it. If it's been drop pods, we've just struggled very difficultly against dealing with them. I haven't shown you them because this recording session is probably roughly around 15 hours so far, and we still only have 5,000 beer. But now it's going to be a case of just waiting, slowly expanding the factory so we can just get more and more things. So I'm going to start throwing in some raids and stuff just to kind of see how we deal with things and whether or not it actually affects whether we reach 1 million beer. So we've had our lovely quest pop up, and throughout our journey to get 1 million beer in Rimworld, we're doing pretty good, right? 6,678. My time is definitely not precious to me, as you can tell. We have had a quest for young vagabonds hope for alms. Now, usually this quest, they want medicine, they want silver to help their friend get out of prison or something. This group of poor children want 58 beer to free their friend from slavers. Like, I've never seen this before in Rimworld. I love it. I absolutely love it. Am I going to give them 58 beer, though? No. No, I am not. So as time goes on, and I'm still working on achieving 1 million beer, we've got a few problems here. Time. Time is mainly the one thing. Who'd have thought that getting 1 million beers in Rimworld would take so long? Even if I try to compromise and say, let's go for 1 million silver in terms of beer, that's still 83,000 beer that we need to get. It's a little bit more achievable, honestly. I feel like this challenge is really easy to do if you have the time. That is the key thing. I'm going to keep going, and we're going to keep going just because the game still has not crashed yet. It's not chugging along, and it's not difficult to play. We'll keep going. We'll try aim for a high number still. So we've now reached the grand old number of 13,000 beers. That's 1 or 2 and enough to definitely get you slightly tipsy, enough just to drive a car very comfortably back home. And I think I've gotten to the stage of this challenge that we're just trying to kill the game now. 1 million beers is literally just time-wise impossible. 1 million wealth in beers is also kind of difficult in terms of time. So now all we're doing is trying to just break the game and make it go down to an absolute slog while still trying to get as much beer as humanly possible. So now we're summoning the Diabolus. I'm going to do all the Mechanator stuff. I'm going to do all the research. I'm just going to try build as much as I can in order for us to finally reach the end of this challenge. Perfect, and there we are. The Diabolus has been defeated. Funnily enough, when everybody's wearing marine armor and charge rifles, it's actually quite easy. Now this allows us to have the signal chip, which means we can have even more mechanoids, and from my previous experience with Rimworld, the more mechanoids we have, the slower the game runs. And a raid, this is quite a large raid of piggies that have come in here. Piggins, pork, chef, and Brawn and Stumpy and... God, I love all the pig names. They're so good. It's quite a large raid here. As you can see, I've been kind of working on building these defensive structures around the map because the biggest issue we've got for raids at the moment is drop pod raids because they don't come in around the outside and they go through my really conveniently built kill box here. Hopefully, this doesn't go too badly. They seem to be going after my constructoids and everything, which is always really annoying. Here we go, the raid has been completed. Unfortunately, we didn't get any prisoners out of that. It goes to show how good we actually are. It's just a few bigger raids and we'll be absolutely obliterated. And then I can go and do whatever I want and not have to continue this. And a group of mechanoids have arrived nearby. Very conveniently, they've landed outside of the wall. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. We'll just get to enjoy rebuilding all of our defenses. Perfect, and that's all of them defeated. They went straight through all of my defense. Fantastic. If that doesn't tell me that the end times are near, I don't know what does. Jesus, this is brutal. Ooh, and a CTG civilian trader has come along. If I remember rightly, these are the ones that give... They just sell everything. These are like Amazon for Rimworld, and I absolutely love them to pieces. So this trader has come in absolute clutch for us. We can buy 100 components, 20 advanced components, 1,000 plastic, and just sell loads of stuff that we don't necessarily need. They do have some very interesting stuff down here, like the Sal Overclocked Assembler Mark II, but it's 20,000 silver, and I'm not selling any beer to no one. But this huge influx of resources should confidently take us over a very good amount of things. We can build all of our turrets and everything, and we should be able to expand further. And a mechanoid raid, they've decided to go through my walls, which is the one flaw of this entire base is, you know, if they just don't go through the kill box. There's quite a few of them here, a couple of centipedes, a pikeman, and a couple of lancers. Whilst it's not ideal, I do now have auto cannons as well, so hopefully those will help. And very conveniently, I've got my refugees doing the heavy work. One of them's 1v1ing a centipede, and the other one is just kind of going at it. One of them did, unfortunately, die, which is never ideal. I don't think people like it when refugees die, but at least they're dying for a good cause. And there we are, the raid has been dealt with, all thanks to the refugees. Cheers, refugees! And after going for what seems like the longest time, I don't think I can play anymore, honestly. The game is going at anywhere from 10 to 20 FPS to 100 to 200 FTPS if I'm lucky. I can't do any more. Where have I got to though? 20,000 beer. 20,000 beer in Rimworld. Which if you look at the maths of 20,000 beer times the value of a single beer, which is 12, equals 240,000 silver worth of beer. Now, I've never had this much beer in Rimworld. There is no bulk trader for Rimworld. There is nothing like that. We got to a point with our little refinery area here where we had over 100 fermenting tanks, meaning that we were producing 5,000 beer, like, every 4 days. Like, we could have expanded even further and doubled that to 10,000 beer every 4 days. Like, we were starting to snowball, but I just couldn't do anymore. So I guess the question is, can you get 1 million beers in Rimworld? If you don't have a life, which I funnily enough do, you can. If you have nothing better to do and you want to just destroy your PC, of course you can. But I can't. I just can't do that today. But if you have enjoyed this challenge video and have found it interesting seeing how far and how much beer we can get within Rimworld, consider liking, subscribing, and make sure you tell your mum about me. See you next time. Thank you.